Hello, my name is Anthony Shivkumar and welcome to the ANTSAND Vancouver SEO Expert video series. And today what I want to talk about are the 11 different ways in which you can write a blog. Now there are various other ways, but I've distilled it down to 11 different ways in which you can write content on your website or through video or through podcasting or through written blogs or just by even through pictures like infographics and whatnot. But these are different 11 content ideas that I'm giving you. So number one is called the Ultimate Guide. The Ultimate Guides are generally very comprehensive long form articles where you're basically taking a user or an audience who does not have enough knowledge about the subject. They're basically novices or beginners, and then you are taking them on an ultimate guide. So you're taking them from a beginner to all the way to an intermediate level where they now have deeper understanding of the subject. And they're generally comprehensive guides because you're trying to go from the fundamentals of a particular subject all the way up to intermediate and advanced levels, introducing them to jargons in that particular subject or in that particular market. You're basically think of an ultimate guide as a method to take a student from class 1 to class 6 to class 7 in mathematics. So for example, just giving an example, you're teaching them basics of numbers, and then you're teaching them how to do arithmetic, addition, division, subtraction, so that they have the necessary tools to now progress and do more advanced stuff. So those are what ultimate guides are. So in my case, we have written a blog on the ultimate guide to marketing or the ultimate guide to blogging, where we talk about the different type, the mindset in order for you to get started in marketing, because it is kind of like a behavioral thing. And then we talk about the psychology, we talk about the mindsets, we talk about the action, and that's what an ultimate guide is supposed to do. It is supposed to take your users from not knowing anything about the subject and all the way to making them intermediate. Now, I don't think an ultimate guide is sufficient for them to take the reader from not knowing anything to a very advanced level, but it lays the foundation so that when they start to practice what you teach or practice what you've written, they can use the ultimate guide as a reference material. And that's what we really want. So that's the first type of blog you can write. It's very comprehensive. It's supposed to be comprehensive. It cannot be short form, because then it wouldn't be the ultimate guide. All right. Number two, education. Now, yes, ultimate guides are a form of education, but when I talk about educational blogs, I'm talking about like a proper curriculum, a proper quizzes, you're basically having a more structured way of educating your users, and you can have it in a form that you are basically evaluating their knowledge. You're testing their knowledge once in a while as they complete each section or each chapter in your content. These are more advanced forms of writing content, but nevertheless, having some form of an educational system where it's more structured it keeps your audiences engaged, because now you're positioning yourself as an authority, you're positioning yourself as a teacher, and it's a great way to engage with your audience. Ultimate guides are a little different in the sense that they don't necessarily have a fixed structure or a curriculum. It's not a time frame. It's more like a reference material. But an educational blog is supposed to be, it can be time bounded, but it definitely is quiz oriented. You're testing their knowledge. And that's the second type of blog that you can write, especially if you're the authority in a subject and you really have ideas of how you can explain the concepts to different types of people and to the different knowledges as well. For example, you can have a novice kind of an educational material to an intermediate to an advanced form. So you have the flexibility of catering to what type of audience. Whereas ultimate guides are generally from a novice all the way to intermediate, but educational can be, depending on where you want to take your readers, you can have, different types for different types of user experiences. Sorry, their experience level. You can basically have a blog that caters to them going to the next level. So you can have a blog for beginners, which is educational in nature, but you're taking the beginner to an advanced level, or it's a beginners to an intermediate level. Then you can have another blog to take a reader from an intermediate to the advanced level. So those are good ways of creating a curriculum in your arsenal of content marketing. The third type of blogs that I firmly believe is very important are the how-to guides. And the how-to guides are mostly very tactical in nature. So it's more like when you go online and you're like, hey, how do I remove the background from this particular video? So that's a very tactical how-to guide. It's you're looking for a solution and how to basically navigate a tool, right? It's the same way. How do I get started blogging? What platforms do I need to install and stuff like that? So how-to are very tactical in nature, in the sense that the audience is looking for a very specific solution, and how-to guides and how-to blogs are a great way to capture that need. And if your blog can answer that question, it somehow builds an authority, and it's just a great way to put your brand in front of as many people as possible, especially if you can answer a lot of these how-to guides. I call them tactical in nature because it's not strategical. It's and I'm going to talk more about tactical versus strategical, but tactical blogs are you need an action immediately, and or an audience needs an answer immediately, and your blog is answering that answer. Whereas strategical blogs are where you're talking about the mindsets, the strategies, and how do it's a very long-term system. Like ultimate guides are generally strategical blogs, educations are very strategical blogs, whereas how-to guides are mostly tactical blogs. The fourth type of blog that I believe is important, right, at top 10 list. Great way to top 10 is a great headline capturing. It's just great for capturing clicks. So it's very clickbaity in nature. These top 10 lists. So what do I mean by top 10 list? When I say top 10, it could be any number, but it's more like the top 10 ways in which you should write a blog. For example, this headline is a top 10 kind of a content. The 11 ways in which you can write blog, or the 39 mental tools that I use to make better decisions, or the 13 things that I learned using the Wim Hof method, or the 10 ways in which you can be a better UI and UX designer. So those are generally educational, but you're structuring them in point-wise form, and it's top 10. It's easy for people to okay, this is step 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is what I learned from this content. So top 10 blogs are I call it top 10, but it could be any numbers. But it's a great way to if you do not know what to write, just think of top 3 things that you want to teach someone, and then you can list them out. Just giving you an example right now, the top 3 ways in which you can do a video blog. Number 1, look at the camera, so for maximum engagement. Number 2, make sure it's lit up properly. And number 3, you make sure that you're speaking articulately, so the audio quality is better than the video. So something of that sort. And that could be like a small little top 3 things to make your videos more effective. And that could be the title of your blog. So you can come up with these blog ideas very quickly. And it's very subjective in nature. Nothing is very objective. There are very few things that is objective. So by most accounts, most of blogging is very subjective. So your job is to just put your voice in front of it, to make it unique, give it a personality. So you don't have to focus too much on the objectivity of it, but focus more on putting a personality and talking about what your views are all about. So that's what top 10 is all about. The next type of blog that I firmly believe is important, especially if you're a travel blogger, or if you're a food blogger and whatnot, or if you're a practitioner, is talking about your experiences. Now, what are experiences? Say, for example, if you go traveling from point A to point B, you can talk about your experience staying in a hotel, your experience in traveling. If you're a travel blogger, you can talk about your experience and what to look for when you reach this particular location. So that's based on, you've done that, you're a practitioner, and now you're sharing your experience. So for example, if I want to talk about, my experience as being a content marketer, then I can talk about, this is my lifestyle, this is what I do, this is the way I eat, this is how I plan my content, this is how I execute on my content, this is how I proofread on my content, and this is based on the way and this is my lifestyle, and I do this, in this time of the day, and this time during the week. So you're basically sharing you're being more intimate with you're allowing your audience to be more intimate with you by sharing your experiences. And it's almost as if they are coming along with you on this journey because you're sharing your experience. So I call them experiential blogs, and they're good if your lifestyle is such a way that you just like to just share experiences and you don't want to do ultimate guides and whatnot, and you still want to produce content. Experiences are the great way to do that. A lot of video blogs online are very experiential, especially on social media. People share their life, and I call that, I would categorize those kind of content as their experience, and then they're allowing the whole world to basically see their life. The sixth type of blog that I believe that you should be writing is random fillers. I don't say you should be writing, but I believe that there's certain types of articles where if you have a lot of followers and people are just more interested in your life in general or in your ideas and whatnot, I call them random fillers, in the sense that you could just write content on anything that comes up in your mind. And it could be an idea, it could be a fantasy, it could be your aspiration, it could be a motivation, it could be a desire, it could be your pain points, it could be your struggles, it could be your emotions. But you can just write a blog and it does not need to even make sense. It's just you filling a blog, and I call them random fillers because you're just filling the blog based on whatever you want to write on. And there's no structure for it. And it works well if you already have an audience. And there are many bloggers that are out there that they just share their life with, as soon as they get up, they have a camera in front of it. It's kind of like an experiential blog, but it's also very random. It's, there's no theme behind the blog. There's no objective. But because it's their idea and they have a follower and the followers and they have raving fans want to know everything about these people. So it's a great way to just engage with your audience. So I call them random fillers. If you're really into content marketing and writing blogs and you want to be very consistent, be accountable, another type of blog that I firmly believe can help you out are challenges. So what are challenges? You could have things like 7-day challenges, 30-day challenges, 3-month challenges, whatnot. But challenges are a great way to keep yourself accountable. So when I was starting a business back in the day, I had this 30-day challenge where I would write content every single day talking about my experience of starting a business. And it just kept me accountable of saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do today. This is what my objective is. And at the end of 30 days, I'm looking to get at least one customer buy my product or services. So just by writing blogs, you're showing to the whole world that this is what you're trying to accomplish. And because you're sharing it to the world, it kind of helps you to become more accountable. And that's what we're really looking at. How can you keep yourself more accountable? And then those who are doing similar challenges, they would find a lot of value in what you're doing, because now they can extract that information and say, okay, this is what this person has done. And now if I want to go through the same process, I can learn a lot from it, and I can see their ups and downs, their struggles, their pain points, their aspirations, their success, their plans, their game plans, and what they did and how they did it. What did they do during the day? How did they execute during the week? And all those details can be if it's well documented, can really help others who want to accomplish the same thing and they are not motivated enough. And your challenges can inspire them to do similar challenges. So don't underestimate the power of sharing your struggles. The 8th type of blog that I talk about are stories. Stories are a great way to basically talk about what do I say? Like, stories it's similar to sharing your experience, but it could also be someone else's stories. It can also be based on your observation. So you could basically say, I had something happen in your family or with your friends, and then you can say, this is a story that I would want to share with you because there's something that I learned from, and it's not based on what I've gone through, but it's something that I've observed. Or it could even be fictitious, or it could be someone, or you read a book or a storybook, and you want to share a story from it. Those are great ways to write blogs if you want to especially if it's storytelling kind of a blog. It could be political, it could be religious, it could be emotional, it could be fictitious, it could be something from some other nothing related to you, but it's someone else's stories. It could be a family, it could be a friend, it could be just someone that you just know of through the internet. So stories, if it's your story, then it will be experiential. But if it's not, then I would categorize that as a completely different category, because you're writing a story based on what you've learned and whatnot. The next type of blog that you can do, especially if you're in business and you've been able to get results for users or your customers, I call them case studies. So case studies are, for example, when we started earlier doing website marketing and whatnot, we would go to other people's blogs or websites, and then we do a case study of how their website could be improved and what the website is already doing well so that it's performing. And that's what case studies can do. Like, you can take an activity, or you can take an object, or you can take a idea and decipher it and break it down based on what you think they're doing good and what they could do to improve, and whatnot. So case studies are also a good way for promoting your business, because you're giving your users an idea of how you break things down and what you would do differently to make it better. So I like using case studies once in a while, especially if I want to, show people, our thinking process, our strategies, our ideas, and how we go about doing things from point A to point B. How we go from, where we are right now and what we want to get, what's the objective, and this is a good case study. And sometimes it could be very promising case studies where you're just inspired and awed by what someone is really doing, and you just want to break it down and say, well, how are they able to accomplish something magnificent, and this is what you have understood from it. Or you're looking at something where you want them to improve, and then you break it down, giving them your ideas on how you would probably do it. Especially, it should be related to your business, especially if you're doing blogging for your business. Or if it's not, then it should be relevant to your objective or what your channel is all about. Another thing after you go about case studies, then you can talk about what exactly are fictitious stories. Fictitious stories are where, especially when you are in a particular industry where you don't want to share your client's work because of confidentiality. Writing fictitious stories is a great way to talk about the same pain point and struggles that they have, but you're basically making it fictitious in nature. You're changing the name, you're changing the all the details that are confidential, and it's still a true story, but it's fictitious in nature, which is you're not addressing one particular person. So there's a book by Elliott called The Goal, where he talks about how an assembly line process should be improved using minimizing bottlenecks and maximizing throughput and whatnot. And he takes an example of real life industries, but it's very fictitious. It's a fictitious story, but the concepts are very relevant to any business that has an assembly line chain, be it in software, be it in making manufacturing cars or whatnot. So that book is basically a great example of where you basically are taking real world examples, but you're making it fictitious so that you're not pinpointing one particular person or industry. And it works very well, because if you are in a business of solving problems, which most businesses are, there's good chances that your clients or customers do not have unicorn problems. They all have very similar problems, and the prospects that you're trying to attract would also have similar problems. So without addressing the individual person, you're basically taking the story out there and saying, okay, if you have these problems, and if this is who you are, and you believe that you have these same problems, we can solve it. And you're basically writing a story in a very fictitious manner, though it's based on a true story. So that's another great way to promote your brand without sharing the confidential information of your clients. And last but not the least, and this is important for me, is that the idea of blending tactical blogs and strategical blogs. So ultimate guides, education material, stories, I wouldn't say stories, I would say fictitious stories, your top 10 list, they somehow are very strategical in nature. And then you have the how-to or the top 10, they're very tactical. So strategical blogs are generally very long form, and then you got the tactical blogs, which are very let's focus on this, and how do you work on Photoshop? These are the top 10 things you need to do to remove a background from this particular picture. So those are very tactical. When I talk about strategical and using tactical in your blog, is a blend of using ultimate guides and top 10 list, or using a blend of a combination of all of these what we spoke about. It's you're basically using an ultimate guide version, but you also have a little bit of top 10 in it, and you have a little bit of how-to in it. And those are blogs that, depending on what you're trying to write on, you don't have to necessarily, because ultimate guides are very comprehensive, it can take a lot of time. And how-to guides are generally pretty quick if you have the knowledge of how to do certain things and you just want to share how you're doing it. But sometimes you might find that how-to guides, they really do not help you convert the prospects to customers, but ultimate guides do. So you want to blend the two. And that's why I call them the strategical and tactical blog type, where you're blending the strategies of how people should be thinking about an objective, of an idea, of how they can progress from being a beginner to an advanced level and whatnot. And the how-to guides is installed in these blogs so that you're even giving them step-by-step processes and actions to take. I don't necessarily like blending the two, but there are a lot of blogs that many users, they start with the ultimate guide and they end with how-to guides. And that's just a great way to show that you that you understand the full breadth of how things work, and it's a one-stop shop to not just get the strategies, but also implement on what you have just said. So those are the 11 types of blogs. If I firmly believe that if you don't have to write all 11, but these are the 11 types which I think would basically cater to all different types of content. So let's go through it once again. The number 1 is ultimate guides. The number 2 is the education types of blogs. Number 3 is the how-to guides. Number 4 is top 10 list. Number 5 is your experience, experiential, your stories, your personal stories. Number 6 is random fillers, where you can just talk about your ideas, your concepts, your fantasies, and whatnot. Then the challenge blogs. If you want to create challenges, great way to keep yourself accountable. Stories are where you observe things from other people's stories, from books, from newspapers, from news, and it could be any story that you firstly believe you want to share with your audience. Then case studies. Case studies is a great way if you observe something that is magnificent and it's great, especially it's a thing or a company or whatnot. It's a great way to write a case study about what you have learned and how they do certain things. Or if you want to improve on a particular concept, the case studies are great blogs. Then we have fictitious blogs, where it's very similar to a case study, but it's not, because you're really giving them, it's based on a complete true story, but you're making it fictitious in nature so that you are not sharing the confidentiality of the individual involved in that story. And the last but not the least is tactical versus strategical. You're blending the two, you're amalgamating the two, and it's basically taking any of the top 10 that I've just spoken about and mixing and matching it to make your own version of your own blog. So I call them the strategical versus tactical. You're basically combining a combination of all those blogs to make an effective blog. If you found this video series helpful, I highly recommend you to subscribe to this video channel below, and you'll get a lot more. So whenever we release a new video, you will basically be notified. You can also go to blog.antsand.com and subscribe to our newsletters, where we write blogs based on these 11 different types, and you can really see how we do what we do. And till next time, see you.